Hi, welcome to the Andrew Michael comic review of Marvel Treasury Edition number 2. This was December 1974, quite a long time ago, 50 odd years ago. And you got the fabulous Fantastic Four. It's amazing when you think 50 years. This one is not my original copy. It's quite battered. Actually saying that, my original copy was probably pretty battered. And I love it. It was $1.50. I'm quite certain that I had the UK price one, which I can't remember what it was, 50p or 75 pence, I think. Maybe it's that sort of range. But it was a deluxe limited edition. Though you should be able to find copies on eBay, etc. And yeah, you've got the Fantastic Four, you've got the spine there, and you've got obviously on the back the 4 human beings changed by space, born cosmic rays into something more than human. So what's in it? Well, some great stories. And actually, before I go any further, at the time, this seemed to be huge. It was huge. I mean, compared with our weekly editions, it was a lot larger. Not excessively larger, but certainly larger than the American ones. I didn't have a vast amount of American ones at that point, but you can see the American one there. Obviously not issue 50 or 48 would be nice, but I haven't got that. Issue 64, the first appearance of the Kree. And you've got here the Sentry Sinister. And you can see the size. So it's quite a bit of a massive size increase. Of course, at the time, a lot of these stories, unless you had the original issues, and obviously the UK ones, which were black and white, the only other way would have been Marvel Collector's items and those sort of things, that magazines, which of course were great. I never understood in many ways because quite a few of those came out like 65, 66, only a few years after the original issues, which you think would have been reasonably readily available to get. Maybe it was harder to find. I don't know. But still, I'm going to bring up a slightly bigger book, and that's this one. The Galactus one. Of course, the stories in here of Galactus. Now, I thought when I got this Marvel Treasure Edition that it was much the same sort of size as the... And you can see, obviously not. It's a lot larger. But the only issue, of course, for many is that, of course, with this one, it's been restored. So you've got the original brilliant story there, but it's been recoloured and also cleaned up and everything, which is fine. I mean, you of course be, startling saga of the Silver Surfer. But let's just go right to the start. And I just want to quickly check. Suddenly I thought to myself, no. That part of the story does get coming of Galactus. You've got the coming of Galactus. That issue, the Marvel Treasury one, cuts that off. I was thinking to myself, I can't recall that start of that. Let's just go to that now. Let's just put that down there and go to the actual thing, which is quite helpful. Because what does it feature? Well, it features this, the Captives of the Deadly Duo, The Impossible Man, A Day in the Life of Fantastic Four. That was issue 11. Love those two stories. They were 2 short stories, but classics. The Captives of the Deadly Duo, of course, Dr. Doom, who had only just appeared after issue 5. This was issue 6. Fortunately, it doesn't say the numbers, but it does say in the actual magazine. So you've got here the startling saga, etc. So you've got the 3 Galactus stories, but they're slightly cut off. And that's odd. I don't know why they didn't include the rest of the stories, but they didn't. Now you've got here the Captives of the Deadly Duo. That's the top is about the only bit that's probably different. Maybe there's some other differences. I don't know. Haven't gone through it, studying each page, thinking, oh, you know what? That they've changed that, they've modified that. I don't know. I assume this is much the same as it came out. I love their Sue Storm going through it, and also the Postman. The Postman is slightly different later on, which is quite nice. But still, and this is a brilliant story. Obviously, got there the thing rolling that still. That was always impressive. And you got Submariner meeting for the first time Dr. Doom, who do not tremble at the name of Dr. Doom. Now, you might have not known who Dr. Doom was at that point because it only appeared previous issue, but still. You got Neymar, he goes off, helps Dr. Doom. You know that's going to work out so well. But it's really nice the way, of course, there was a romance between Sue Storm and Namor at the time, which I think they should have carried on a lot longer, but they never did really sort of it. But it was still, I guess it was still there for quite a while, but they sort of like only touched upon it a little bit. It wasn't a big thing. I love this part 4, Trapped, and you got that brilliant look. I mean, what a view. We got the planes beneath it. I mean, that is just absolutely brilliant. And of course, you've got Manhattan just below. Just love them. You can see there Manhattan. We're thousands of feet above the city. What has Doctor Doom to do with this Submariner? And it's just a classic little story. Just love that. Anyway, I'm not going to show it, but you've probably read it. I'm certain it's been reprinted and done in many issues now. Marvel Masterworks, Epic Collections, etc. But the next one, this is just a brilliant, Impossible Man. I love this story when it came out. I always love these balloons. I always thought of them balloons. He's the most dangerous creature in the galaxy. Probably the most dangerous creature in the universe. If we can't clobber him, who can? I love him. Always has to put clobber him. But he's a menace. And he is a bit of a menace because he just goes around. He can do anything he wants. And he keeps popping up. I don't know how to face Galactus because Galactus is coming later. The Impossible Man versus Galactus. I'm certain that would be a great story. I wonder what Galactus would do with the Impossible World or whatever it was called. But the next story is just my favourite. I just love that. A visit with the Fantastic Four. And again, it's got a little bit of blurb there. And it says issue 11. Timeless tale. And it is. Just walking through the street. They're just going through there. And I love the Fantastic Four page they showed there. So obviously you've got the mail. Listen, your letters in the magazine. Which I think is just great. Gulp, as the guy just bends that. And yeah, there's the postage. So you've got a new postman. We could use you in the post office department. Just love that. Just a great story because you learn so much about, and also it's a great opportunity for them to reprint the origin. Obviously slightly changed. They're always tweaking it. I actually don't remember the torch being like that exactly in the first obviously issue. Very different fact, but it's just a great story. This is odd. It's only when I've been going through this I suddenly looked at it and I thought, well, why would they have printed this? Certainly, obviously this was an American issue, so they would print it. People would know, but certainly for the UK, must have been slightly confusing for many of the UK readers because they probably thought, who's Medusa? Who's this woman? And who's this woman? And the cat. They wouldn't have known those characters unless they'd been reading, obviously, the American comics. And if they hadn't, they wouldn't. And also, the kids, Franklin. It's just odd when you look at these things. I mean, obviously, Alicia would have been probably known by 1974. But some of these characters, and they quite often, when they brought these out in the UK, they would obviously change things occasionally, remove certain bits, because it might confuse too much if you've got a character that you've never seen before. Though occasionally they made a mistake and Ant-Man appears, and you think, well, who's Ant-Man? Obviously, they've got a bit of backstory of Ant-Man we never knew anything about, but still, this is odd. The Galactus one. And it's only when I looked at this and I thought, I thought that's strange when I saw this starting point. I thought, coming of Galactus. I was certain there was a bit more of a story before it. So that's why I just looked in that issue just to see this, remind myself, yes, of course, the Inhumans. And it's weird the way they started that story halfway through. A classic, The Coming of Galactus. Very odd. Why didn't they just go for issue 49, 50 and just put them into... Anyway, I'm certain there was a whole heap of reasons behind that. But it's just very odd. And same with issue 50 where it just ends halfway through. And then you've got the other part of the story. Just seems odd. But that's the way they did it. You got Silver Surfer going through. And of course, at that point, we didn't really know much about Silver Surfer. No, you got to hear about the scrolls there. No doubt, it is the Silver Surfer. And I guess they were following Silver Surfer all over the place. So actually, why do we so fear the lone Silver Surfer? It's not merely him, etc. Of course, you've got Galactus. Galactus cannot be far behind. So we learn a little bit that Galactus is obviously feared by the Skrulls. And the Skrulls obviously are quite a powerful, universal, galactic empire. And again, still, the Silver Surfer, the Galactus story takes a bit of time to really get going. You really have to go through quite a lot of the issue before we actually get to the Galactus. And of course, you've got the Watcher coming down, as always. Why does he need this bit of a grip? My matter mobiliser, just to impress people. Of course, I expect Reed Richards is going, I now understand how that all works. In fact, I designed it last week and you've just taken it from me. Those sort of things. But I love the way he sort of goes and hides the planet by putting the... Not particularly. Why didn't he just move the planet? Wouldn't that have been easier? Someone like maybe phase it out, put it into a different dimension just for a few minutes while... No, that would have been too easy. No, I'm just going to use this scary rocks and various other things. So Silver Surfer still thinks, that's a bit strange. How many planets have wonderful things like that going around? Someone's trying to hide the planet. Because that's what I would be thinking. Anyway, obviously for the Watcher's brilliant mind, he doesn't think those things through very well. But we've got all the way through the first issue. That was issue 48. And we haven't actually seen, or do we see Galactus? Yes, we do, right end. Galactus. Not only that, you get the big G. So speaks Galactus. Sorry, spoilers. That is spoilers. I love that photo collage. I mean, it's just photo, not a collage, but just a photo, just brilliant. It was great to actually use that. I just always love that. Very impressive. I don't know how obviously you've got, looks like actually looking at it, just about make it looks like a city, or maybe it's Vegas. I don't know. Not really certain. Whatever it is, just looks like a city in the background. Why would the city be in the space? But still. And I love the way old thing. I always love the size as well. You've got Galactus, and there's scenes and thing where often, and the same problem always happens with the Hulk. Sometimes you've got the Hulk really enormous against some people. You got like Rick against the Hulk, and you're thinking the size seems to be wrong. Sometimes, and the thing there you got looking one size, and he clobbers. Look at that, just hits that foot against him. I know he might be a long way back, but I don't think so. It just seems very odd size the way it's done, and he hits him. Then that leg looks enormous. If he was that big, he wouldn't. It just wouldn't work. Sorry, I'm just criticising the wonderful, great artist Jack Kirby, but I just think that sometimes when you look at the size, you think that doesn't make any sense. Why is that leg so big? But still, and he's got here, and he brings in the Punisher. Punisher, of course, a name that was later to be very good. But again, you've got Silver Surfer, slightly different, of course, from Silver Surfer later that we obviously got to love. But it's still good to see him like that. And I love he's just going to use his device, of course, to destroy the Earth. Just classic. And of course, then the Watcher helps, which of course the Watcher always does. The Watcher says, I can't help you, but by the way, I'm going to help you. And he did that so many times. I don't know why. Did he ever have a trial, the trial of the Watcher? I'm certain there was a story, Trial of the Watcher, where they turn around and say, look, you've been messing around with everyone. You're not supposed to do that. Didn't you sign that contract saying, do not mess with all those? No. Got to help because of course mankind becomes. The thing that's really quite weird is the way it just ends. Just the story just ends, and that was obviously the Silver Surfer Galactus story ends halfway through the book. Very strange, just strange way of doing that. Inside the back of the building as well, put at the back. Very odd, because they also included it earlier on. So why include it twice? Very peculiar. But still, 100 pages of just classic. And I remember getting this, and I loved this. It's just one of the greatest things. Just having these stories in this size format. And I don't know at that point, no, I'm going to have to say I'd read it. December 1974. I'm not certain if the Galactus stories would have been printed by then in the UK. Someone will probably correct me and say, yes, they were. They've been printed already. Because the Fantastic Four stories, we always had them coming out 10 pages. And then a week later, we'd have another 10 pages. So you would imagine that maybe. So in a year, you would only get through 25 issues. And they started in 1973. So it's possible they just about got up to this story. So we might have known about the Galactus story at this point. I don't remember, without looking and doing a bit of research. But still, it was just brilliant. I remember getting it around the Christmas period. Just, wow, what a brilliant magazine. So this one, you should be able to pick up copies of this relatively easy. It's still relevant, all over the place. The prices can vary. I have seen it reasonably priced at 10, 12, 15 pounds. This one I think paid about £8 for. But you can see it for a lot more. Obviously, if it's in real great condition. And these ones never really stay in great condition because then, when it got posted to me, it was like slightly ended up a bit battered. And that's the trouble. They're just not really, there's not a huge sport there. So they get really badly creased there and they just bend and people roll them up in their back pockets back in the 70s. And of course, gets damaged over time. I'm certain I gave mine to my mates and they would read it and then backwards and forwards. And so they got really quite tatty. And likewise this one as well. But it's just a great comic. Thorough enjoyable. And also another problem, I suppose slabs. Probably not many slabs that fit this format. So I don't know if these get slabbed at all. So if they do, there must be special boxes for them. But it's still not the easiest to format to store as well. That's another problem. They have a tendency, if you put a lot together, they all end up flopping over and creating creased as well. Still, absolutely brilliant magazine. I love this. Fabulous Fantastic Four, issue 2 of the Marvel Treasury editions.